If only they knew how he cut the hair of his customers. Everyone thought he was just a poor, ordinary barber. A quiet young man with nothing but a comb, a pair of scissors, and a faded smile. But what they didn't know, what no one could ever imagine, was how he truly cut the hair of his customers. The sun rose that day like any other in the bustling heart of Abeokuta. Chuka stood outside the printing press, his shirt soaked with sweat before the day had even begun. He had dreams, not lofty ones, but simple, meaningful dreams. He wanted to save up and start a small design company. He was talented, creative, focused. People admired how his eyes lit up whenever he talked about colors, papers, and printing inks. But that morning, something went terribly wrong. The old German-made printing machine, known to groan and complain louder than a market woman cheated out of her change, jammed while Chuka was aligning paper trays. Without thinking, he reached in to fix it. There was a scream, a shriek that pierced the building, and a rush of red. The machine didn't let go gently. It chewed through flesh and bone, spitting out his fingers like worthless debris. 3 of his fingers. Gone. Just like that. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and despair. He remembered how the nurse avoided looking directly at him when she unwrapped the bandage. His right hand, the one he used to draw, design, write, and dream, with just 2 fingers left. He became a ghost of himself. He sat on his bed for days, watching ants crawl along the cracked wall of the one-room apartment he rented. His friends came and went with bags of fruit and forced encouragement. But nothing filled the hollow in his chest. How do I start again? What can I even do with 2 fingers? He refused to eat, refused to bathe. He tore up the sketches he once adored. Days blurred into nights, and nights bled into more tears. He thought of his late mother's words, "If the sky closes, the earth will still hold you." He wasn't sure anymore. Then one evening, the sound of children laughing outside reminded him of a time he used to shave his younger brother's head with just a razor blade and a comb. How they used to joke about opening a barber shop called Fine Boy No Pimple. A silly name. But that night, it hit him differently. His eyes locked on the pair of scissors in the drawer. He pulled it out with trembling hands and held it between the 2 fingers he had left. It dropped. Again. And again. And again. But by the 5th time, he gripped it. Tight. Firm. He smiled through tears. He wasn't done yet. It started with Fola, his next-door neighbor and part-time mechanic, whose hair had become a jungle of confused strands and oil stains. Fola knocked on Chuka's door half-jokingly. "Guy, a beg run me small cut. I know day fit waka go salon," he said, scratching his scalp. Chuka stared at him, then at the scissors, then back at his hand. The 2 fingers still felt foreign, like a borrowed pair from another body. But Fola insisted. "Use the scissors, use blade, use even broom if na wetin you get. Just help me look like human being again." Chuka chuckled. It was the first laugh he'd made in weeks. The first cut was hesitant. The second, careful. But by the third, Chuka's eyes narrowed and focused like they used to when he was designing flyers. His fingers, those 2 lonely survivors, began to understand the rhythm of their new assignment. The scissors danced. The blade whispered against the skin. And when he was done, Fola looked 10 years younger. Chuka. This one no be ordinary hand You carry grace." Fola shouted, turning his head left and right in front of a cracked mirror. The word spread like wildfire. First came Kemi's younger brother, then Beezy's fiancé, then the boys from the local football team. They all sat on the old wooden chair behind Chuka's apartment, curious, amused, or simply broke, but they left astonished. How could someone cut hair so flawlessly, with just 2 fingers? Some said it was spiritual. Others said he made a secret covenant in the forest. But Chuka knew it was something else: hunger, humility, and healing. He created new techniques. He tied blades to long combs. He gripped clippers with his remaining fingers and reinforced the hold with cloth bands. Every head was a new canvas. Every line he carved was another proof that brokenness could still produce beauty. One day, an older man named Baba Ken came by. "I hear say na you day cut hair like angel way get accident," he said. "Try me." When Chuka finished, the man looked into the mirror and said, "My son, you are no barber, you are a surgeon with scissors." Chuka laughed so hard he cried. But underneath the laughter was a deep, aching pride. He was healing. Soon, people started paying. 100 naira. 200. Then 500. Then 1,000. He moved his chair inside and called it the Finger of Grace Barbing Studio. He painted the sign himself with leftover ink and a ruler. But it wasn't the money that mattered most. It was the dignity. The children in the area no longer pointed and whispered when they saw his hand. Now they ran to him with faded photos of football stars and said, "Uncle Chuka, gimme Ronaldo pattern." And he did. With 2 fingers. 10,000 miracles. But fate wasn't done with him yet. One hot Tuesday afternoon, just when the sun burned like vengeance and the power was out, a black Prado Jeep pulled up in front of his shop. The tinted glass rolled down slowly, and the man inside said, "Are you the barber with 2 fingers?" Chuka nodded, nervous. "Yes, sir. I'm Chief Akand," the man said. "Cut my hair, and if you impress me, your life will never remain the same." Chuka swallowed hard. He didn't know that he was about to open the door to a destiny far beyond the slums of Abeokuta. The silence in the barber shop was loud. Chief Akand sat like a lion on the throne, dressed in flowing agbada with gold embroidery, his perfume filling the air with quiet intimidation. His beard was gray but finely shaped. His eyes, sharp, calculating, studied Chuka like a riddle wrapped in flesh. "Are you sure you can handle this?" the chief asked again, voice low but firm. "With just 2 fingers?" Chuka's heart pounded, but his hands remained steady. He had learned to respect the blade, not fear it. "Yes, sir," he replied. "Just show me the style you want." The chief pointed to a photo on his phone, a faded image of a younger version of himself with a fade so clean it looked airbrushed. "Do that," he said. Chuka nodded, picked up his clippers, and whispered beneath his breath, "God guide my hand." The shop was dead silent. Even the wall clock seemed to pause. Then came the first hum of the clippers. Chuka held it between his fingers like a violinist cradling a bow. He made his first stroke, slow and confident. The second followed, crisp. By the third, he was lost in the flow. Sweat dripped down his brow, but he didn't flinch. Each line was deliberate. Each fade, a stroke of genius. His left finger supported the clipper, the right guided it like a commander guiding troops. He used mirrors, angled the chair, whispered calming words to the chief as he worked. "You'll like this side, sir. Just relax." 20 minutes in, a small crowd had gathered by the window. Someone whispered, "Not true. He day used 2 fingers day cut this big man." When Chuka finally put down the clippers, his heart was in his mouth. Chief Akand looked into the mirror. He blinked. He tilted his head left, then right, then back again. Chuka braced for either thunder or applause. Instead, Chief Akand stood up, turned around, and stared Chuka dead in the eye. "My God," he muttered. "This is better than what my personal barber in Ikoyi gives me. And you did this with 2 fingers." Chuka only nodded, unsure what to say. The chief dipped his hand into his agbada and pulled out a white envelope. He handed it over. Chuka opened it. Nigerian Naira 200,000. He gasped. "Sir, this is too much." "That's not for the haircut," Chief Akand cut in. "That's for the courage. For refusing to let tragedy define you." Chuka stood speechless. "But I'm not done," the chief continued. "I want to set up a proper shop for you. Air conditioning, lights, branded clippers, mirrors, uniforms for assistants." "Sir," Chuka's voice cracked. "Why?" Chief Akand smiled. "Because the world deserves to know your hands. And I believe your story can give others hope." Chuka dropped to his knees, tears rushing like a broken dam. He remembered the night he tried to drown his pain in the river. The nights he stared at his ceiling, wondering if his life was over. And now, a house-sized shop? For a boy who couldn't even grip a toothbrush without shaking? The chief called his assistant. "Give me his full name, address, and ID. The contract starts today. We build him something fitting for his gift." That night, Chuka didn't sleep. Not because he was worried, but because joy was too loud in his chest. He looked at his 2 fingers and whispered, "You're more powerful than I ever gave you credit for." From the ruins of pain, something new was being born. And even though he didn't know all the details, he knew this. Life had given him a second chance. And this time, he would hold it tightly, even if with just 2 fingers. 1 year later, the street that once mocked Chuka now danced in admiration every time he walked by. Children pointed and shouted, "Uncle Chuka! Uncle Chuka!" Hawkers paused their sales just to wave. Even elderly men removed their caps in respect. Why? Because of what now stood at the corner of Akintala Avenue. A glass-walled, air-conditioned masterpiece called Finger of Grace International Barbers and Academy. Etched in gold lettering beneath the name was a bold inscription. Built by God. Shaped by courage. Cut by 2 fingers. Inside the building, the hum of clippers blended with laughter and soft jazz music. The scent of fresh leather, vanilla cologne, and menthol shampoo floated in the air. Every chair was occupied, every mirror spotless. The walls were lined with framed photos, before and after shots, celebrity clients, and newspaper headlines like, "Disabled barber shakes Lagos with his hands of gold." From accident to academy, Chuka inspires thousands. At the far end of the shop stood a modest stage where young apprentices took turns learning the art of hair mastery. Most of them were orphans, street boys, or those like Chuka, wounded by life, hungry for hope. Chuka walked in that morning wearing a simple white kaftan and leather sandals. As he entered, every barber stood. Every customer applauded. He smiled. "Good morning, team," he greeted. "Good morning, boss," they chorused. He went straight to the training room where 4 new students waited. One of them, a shy boy named Abuchi, had burn scars on his arm and no fingers on his left hand. "Are you sure I can do this, sir?" he asked, voice trembling. Chuka knelt before him, lifted his own hand with the missing fingers, and said, "I asked myself the same question. But the clippers didn't care. They just needed someone bold enough to try." The boy wiped a tear. "I want to be like you." "No," Chuka said gently, "you'll be better." Outside, Chief Akin's black jeep pulled up. He had come to check on the Academy's scholarship students. He walked in, looked around, and gave a proud nod. "You've made me proud, son." Chuka bowed slightly. "It was your belief in me, sir." "No," the chief replied. "It was your belief in yourself." That evening, the sun set over the academy in golden splendor. Chuka sat by the large front window, watching the crowd. He held a journal titled Finger of Grace Memoirs, where he wrote something new each day. Today's entry read, "They laughed at me. Even I doubted myself. But now, people come from cities just to watch my 2 fingers dance. Grace made a way. And when grace leads, even broken hands become instruments of glory." He closed the book and looked at his reflection in the mirror. He no longer saw the boy who begged to end his life. He saw a man who transformed pain into purpose. And now, the world would never forget how a young barber, wounded, broken, mocked, rose with just 2 fingers and changed everything. Did this story touch your heart? Then don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs hope. Subscribe to African Stories, Folktales, and Jokes for more powerful stories like this. We post every Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And remember, every story you hear here is original and protected. For inquiries, reach us at mariodecunnel2005@gmail.com. Until next time, keep believing, because with God, even 2 fingers are enough.